In today's episode of the Pathmark Presents podcast, I have an interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Mannings Cheng. He's hailing over from the team at GenXys. He's running marketing and customer success over there. So today we want to really deep dive what GenXys is all about beyond sort of what people might have heard already or people have been coming across the website. It's an evidence-based platform for precision medication management. So we really want to deep dive into what that actually means, who is using it, and also how Manning is thinking about growth success for their customers. So Manning, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So maybe give us a 360 overview at the beginning. What is GenXys all about in your own words?
Yeah, GenXys is all about finding the right medications for people across the globe. A lot of people are struggling with medication, and it's kind of a trial and error approach that we are currently experiencing. We've been going at this approach for the last couple, maybe century or so, where people are trying to find out what works and what doesn't work for them in terms of curing or trying to medicate their symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And right then is we're at the cusp of using the technology that we have out there with AI or just genomic information as well, and incorporating all of those data sets points to really find the tailored, precise prescribing approach for medication for patients across the world, because everyone's inherently different. So
Mm-hmm.
why shouldn't your medication also reflect that as well?
Mm-hmm. Is there sort of like, just for people who are just getting to know you guys, is there like a certain focus area? Is there certain sort of types of medications, types of sort of health conditions that you guys are focusing on? Is it a B2B? Is it B2C? Do people, get to yourself? Like maybe give us a bit of sort of context of, who is benefiting the most from what you
Yeah,
provide.
definitely. We're more of a B2B company. We started off with a B2C approach where we would actually send pharmacogenetic tests out to patients, directly out to the customers, and they would be able to take their DNA sample. We would process those results, and then we would find medications that they would be ill suited for or suited for as well, and then really tailor that approach. But we found that a lot of that information was very hard for clinicians to understand. And we started moving into a software approach and more tailored towards the clinicians out there, the pharmacists, the health systems out in the world to better use that pharmacogenomic information to make it actionable. And that's where we kind of took that approach. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. That makes a lot of sense. Now, who within the companies that you're working with is typically sort of reaching out to you guys? Like, who's typically a champion to bring GenXys into their organizations, and what types of organizations are a great partner?
Yeah, so right now we have two main customer segments. One would be the healthcare providers. So those would be the health systems, the hospitals, the pharmacists, the doctors. And then another section or a subsection of that health system would be those labs that would be that would be performing the pharmacogenetic testing. And they kind of work in conjunction with the health systems, but the health systems are reaching out independently from the lab systems. So that's kind of an interesting two-prong approach. We also have health insurers, payers, also looking at our system as well, because we can do some population risk stratification. So obviously that helps for the insurance companies, but the two major customer bases right now are the health systems and the lab companies. And the champions for the health systems are usually individual doctors that have a specialty in pharmacogenomics or in the genomic space, and pharmacists as a whole, because they are the ones that know medication the best out of everyone out there. And there's lots of space to kind of use or apply that information in people with mental health issues, people with cardiovascular issues as well, and pain management as well. Those are the three major areas that benefit from pharmacogenetic information when generating medication options.
Very cool. Now, what would you say? How do these folks actually learn about GenX? Is GenXys? Is this the sort of the journey? How does it look like? What channels do they go through? What client acquisition channels do you guys leverage? How would you describe like a typical journey?
Yeah. So most of our customers right now have found us via Google. I mean, that's been the best thing. The best customers have been finding us through Google. I mean, obviously they have the intent to find a solution like ours, and those are obviously the highest converting kind of leads that we have currently. Uh, but we are also doing a lot of outbound thought leadership on social media, where that is helping bring us into the forefront of people's minds when they think of pharmacogenomics or clinical decision support solutions. We've been doing a lot of webinars and podcasts as well on our end to kind of just build up that crowd noise of GenXys and really bring our company up as being the forefront in that space.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Now, how do you think about the website? You mentioned Google being a main driver for people. So from there, they obviously head over to your page.
Yeah.
How do you think about the page? What role does it play for the organization?
Yeah, it plays, I think, a very major influential part for the customer journey, I do believe. I kind of adopted the website when I joined the company. There are things that have been kind of like cobblestone together to kind of make the customer journey there.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's if I could redo something, I would probably do a makeover for the website to make sure that the patient journey or the customer journey is much more highly tailored towards their needs.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. That makes a lot of sense. Now, I mean, maybe on that point, like, what do you personally perceive as sort of a strength of the website versus where do you see room for further development?
I think the greatest strength of the website is just the amount of resources that we have on it. We have a lot of internal either case studies or media pieces that we have done out there. So we have it all linked on our website. So it's a good resource for our product as a whole and what we've done. However, we could improve how the customers find that information. And if they could, you know, just lead them correctly along the journey. Yeah,
Very
customer.
cool. No, I mean, thanks a lot for the insight. It's very, very interesting because we have a lot of marketers who are actually thinking exactly in that terms on the show. Like, how can you guide them along the buyer's journey? What content makes sense at which stage? So appreciate that. Now we talked about GenXys, we talked about growth, we talked about the product, talked about the website. I would love to learn a little bit more about yourself and your journey in marketing and customer success. So maybe tell me, where do you personally like to educate yourself, right? There's so much resources out there. You could read all day long on
Yes.
how to be a better marketer. So what do
Yeah.
you personally like to do?
Yeah. I like to just keep up with either just weekly digital marketing newsletters that I follow on LinkedIn. There are a lot of good ones out there. I like to read a lot of how marketers approach certain ideas via Twitter or LinkedIn, as previously mentioned. They always have some really good insights of how you would generate cold emails or inbound posts. And that's where I just like to really dive in. And if there's something more technical, I like to go on like something like a HubSpot Academy and look at their like how to do something much more technical in terms of generating campaigns with multiple touch points, or if you're doing some kind of video campaign as well. So yeah, there are multiple different places that I like to look at.
Hmm. As we're slowly moving towards the end of the interview, I would have some rapid fire questions to get to know you and your journey a little bit better. They're a little bit of a surprise for the guests, but they're harmless. So are
Yeah.
you ready for those?
Yeah.
What would be the last book that you read or the last podcast you listened to?
The last podcast would have been the one that we make here at GenXys,
Mm-hmm.
Precision Insights. We're editing a current episode right now, so we are soon releasing it. So I just had to proofread, proofread that podcast first.
Very cool. What's one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Growth within the laboratory space. These guys are obviously the ones that are doing the pharmacogenetic testing, and they're trying to get that information into the hands of the healthcare system. So it's trying to get those people.
Mm-hmm. Um, if you could change one thing, you would have a magic stick. There's no boundaries in technology anymore. If you could change one thing about your role as a marketer, what's the one thing that you would fix?
Wow. I I don't know.
You have a wild card. Seems you're happy with what you guys are doing, so that's pretty good. For the very last question, right? Let's go back to your first role in marketing, right? So you basically potentially, just getting your feet wet with marketing. What's the back then? What's the one advice you would give yourself for your journey as a marketer?
I would say, yeah, start exactly where you started off on the website side. I think you learn so much from building a strong inbound system. Inbound leads are definitely the highest converting leads out there, and if you put the time in it, you'll just get so much more reward from it, as opposed to having just putting out a website just for the sake of putting out a website. You should never do that. You should always be much more cognizant, much more focused in knowing the journey of your customer, and building it well from the very, very beginning is the best way to do it, as opposed to trying to fix it when you already make it.
Very cool. Henning, I really appreciate you took the time with us to be a guest on Pathmark Presents. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about GenXys, what's the one thing that they should remember?
Yeah, we're just here to really make precision medicine the forefront out there. Adverse drug reactions are before COVID was the fourth leading cause of death out there, just because people are getting the wrong medication out there. And GenXys is here just to really help people out there struggling to find medication, or even people trying to find the right medication right off the start. Just trying to get them on the right path right away. So trying to avoid any kind of ill or bad medications for those individuals.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathmark Presents.
All right, thank you so much.